This video shows the process to make a braided leather edge guard for a 10-inch carving knife. I am using AutoCAD LT and draw the pattern in 1:1 scale, then print the pattern in 1/8 of an inch acrylic for marking and cutting jigs. I start drawing the pattern around the blade, then add the embellishments like an earth magnet closure, a raised and lined decoration on the sides, and a 4-strand round edge braid. I planned out where all the holes needed to be for the braiding to match the 3/16 inch kangaroo lace, which is 3/16 inch holes spaced 3/8 of an inch apart at center with 1/8 of an inch border. I also made the holes to fit the hole punch, so the holes are guided for exact spacing. And since the braid will be on the curve, I added an extra hole to close the gap between the laces on the outside of the curve. Raised and lined elements are cut out of 1/4 inch MDF and offset 1/8 of an inch to stretch the leather around. To mold the 3 to 4 ounce vegetable tanned leather, use room temperature water and soak a piece of leather slightly larger than the mold for at least 10 minutes. Then sandwich the leather between plastic wrap and squeeze the leather into the mold on the end of a bench with clamps. Leave the clamps on for about 20 to 30 minutes and allow the leather to dry. The easiest way to cut out accurate pieces quickly is to clamp the leather and acrylic cutout jig to the edge of a table and drag a hobby knife along the edge to create the part. Another way to accurately cut out a part is with a punch. Tool guides work well to center the punch around the raised leather parts to create an equal border. Wait until the leather is bone dry before you cut out the parts because the leather will shrink as it dries out. To mark out the stitching seams, scribe a line 1/8 of an inch from the edge and use stitching chisels to punch through the leather. Bevel the edges and color the parts with eco-friendly solvent dyes. Allow to dry, then burnish, skive, and paint the edges. Next, glue and stitch the parts together starting with the raised and lined parts. To install the earth magnet catch, glue and stitch a 1-inch circle around a 1/2 inch earth magnet. The earth magnet will help stop the blade falling out of the edge guard. After all the first layer details are stitched into place on both sides, it is glued and stitched onto the next layer using an acrylic glue-up jig to keep all the pieces lined up correctly. Then glue the flat gusset onto the top side and punch the lacing and stitching holes through the top and gusset. Make sure there is enough room for your knife to fit and add an acrylic top coat as a moisture barrier for the interior of the edge guard. Then glue and stitch on the back. It helps describe a line on the back piece where the stitches will be punched through to help line them up. A stitching pony is helpful to hold the leather in place, and when you thread your needle, pass the needle through the top of the thread twice to lock the needle in place. Make sure your stitching awl is very sharp and start saddle stitching with a few back stitches. After the gusset is sewn into place, bevel the edges and sand them flush. Then the bottom layer of the lacing holes can be punched through. A dry punch works well, or a rotary punch like this one is also good to use, but after 65 holes, your hand and forearm will have a bit of a workout. Dye and burnish the edges and edge paint the edge that will not be laced over. Then prepare your lace. Measure at least 7 times the distance you want to lace and cut points onto both ends. Then thread on the needles. I am using 3/16 inch kangaroo lace, so I like to use threaded brass needles because the lace is very strong. But the regular 2-prong lacing needles work great too. Rub on a little conditioner so the leather is less likely to crack as tension is applied, and use a round hole awl to burnish the punch-through holes from the back. Then starting at the back hole, find the center of the lace so there is the same amount of lace on both sides, and use a small clip to tension the lace for the next hole. A 4-strand edge braid is done in 4 passes, so wrap the first thong tightly through every other hole from the back to the front, and then wrap the other side of the first thong or the second thong from the opposite direction. You want the lace to lie down flat along the top edge equally as you apply tension, which creates an equally spaced X for the next pass to fit into. When every other hole is laced from both directions, the third pass is wrapped around the top through the empty holes. When you get to the end, the last pass is weaved into place. The trick is to make sure the lace is tight as you weave the needle following the pattern over one and under one. A lacing fid can be used to help open up a space for the needle to pass through, but you do not want to stretch the lace out of position to the point of where you will need to go back and retension the lace from the beginning. When your weave has been completed and the braid is tight, finish off by passing the ends over top of the same thong, going under at least 2 intersection points, and cut off the ends. This edge guard took the better part of 3 days to complete and about 45 minutes for the lacing.